Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. My name is David. Today we have an exciting video for you. Just earlier today I watched a wonderful video made by none other than Michael K. Vaughan, where he talked about 12 classics that you should read if you want. That was the caveat that he didn't have in his title, but that was part of his description there, the if you want. And he talked about some excellent books. I've read most of them. The few I haven't read are very much on my I want to read these list. And I agree with all but one of his recommendations. Moby Dick, I'm sorry, was just not an enjoyable experience for me. So I can't recommend that one, but I can recommend all of the others that he mentioned. So I wanted to do something a little similar here. I wanted to talk about, give some recommendations on some classic books that you should read if you want to. And hold on. Hello. Oh, hi, Roger. What are you? It's Roger from Stately Von Manor. Yeah, Roger. I'm just getting ready to make a video here. What's you know? How do you know that I'm making a video? Yeah. I'm gonna be making one about the classics recommend. Yeah, and I'm gonna. Yeah, I've got those books, so I shouldn't. But what about? How do you know that this video is not gonna time travel? Oh, okay, yeah, you fixed the timeline and all that. Yeah, Time Lord. Yeah, I hear you. I'm clear, buddy. So, what should I? I mean, I'm recording right now. I don't edit, so but you're gonna take care of that? What? Okay. Well, you pulled us some of my books for me. Thank you, Roger. How did you know? Wibbly wobbly timey wimey. Okay. Yeah. I got it. Say hi to Michael for me. I look forward to you guys' next Hall of Adventure, and make sure it's a good one. Those are always exciting. So I better get back to this. These people are watching. Mummies. What are you gonna do with them? That was Roger from Michael K. Vaughan's channel. You know Roger. You probably watch his channel. And well, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened here, but I've got a different thing that I planned on. I'm going to be talking about some medieval recommendations. So instead of doing classics, I'm going to lean hard into one of the areas that I feel passionately about, I'm excited about, and that I have at least a little bit of a background in prior to book two. And so I can pull on some of this. I'm by no means claiming to be an expert on this. So don't take all of this with a grain of salt. But if you wanted to, say, start reading some medieval texts and don't know where to start, these are, I'm looking at the titles here. He's nicely got the spines facing towards me so I can see what he's picked. And I have to agree, these are some really solid recommendations on if you want to start reading something in medieval. These are, you could do far worse than picking these up as the first dozen or so texts that you're going to read. I haven't counted how many he's pulled here. It looks like more than 12, but there's a couple of big ones on here. So we're going to talk about them. Looks like nothing Shakespeare or beyond. So this is time frame later than the Romans and the Greeks and whatnot. Michael had some ancient texts, but it does go through somebody like Chaucer. So we'll have some Chaucer on here. And we're going to start. Roger knows me too well. With the easy, obvious first recommendation is Beowulf. This is a fantastic text. It's a poem. It's in essentially 3 parts, even though it's not really broken down in those. There's tons of translations out there. But by and large, if you have not read the Seamus Heaney translation, which even this Norton Critical edition contains, that is the edition that you want to read for your first experience, because he walks a wonderful line between the content of the poem itself and the poetic quality that he can bring as an established poet, and does absolute justice to this. Tolkien's got a translation that's more of a prose translation than a poetic translation. It's also enjoyable. And I even read last year the newest translation, that is the supposed feminist take by Maria Devana Headley, and enjoyed it far more than I thought I would. But Beowulf, you cannot go wrong with reading Beowulf. If you haven't yet and you want somebody to talk to while you're reading through it, I am always here to talk Beowulf. I read it a lot, and I'm always happy to talk about it. So this next recommendation here is a big chunker here. This is Sagas of the Icelanders. So I'm sure Roger would like you to read the whole thing, but really, all you need to read in here to get your first taste of it is the very first one in here. And so you don't even need this particular copy. But if you think that you might like the Icelandic sagas, this is what you want, because you're going to have a good handful of sagas. But Egil Saga, which I believe they just did this year for Saga, which is outstanding. It is a great first delving. It's a long one, but it doesn't feel long, and it gives you all of what you expect in an Icelandic saga. You've got interesting nicknames, you've got body counts piling up, you've got some humor, you've got family drama, all kinds of really good stuff. And so you definitely would want at least Egil Saga on the list of medieval texts that you would want to read. But realistically, I mean, you couldn't go wrong with this whole thing. It's not even all of the sagas, but it is a very good sampling and a great overview of them. So next we have the other really easy recommendation. I guess there's still at least two more easy recommendations on here. And this is Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. This particular Norton Critical has 15 tales in the prologue, but you might as well read the whole thing if you can. This is, I assume, just to make it fit into a certain page count and to highlight what are considered the best of the tales. But Chaucer didn't get many more than that, and it's just absolutely fantastic. You can read it in the original Middle English with a little bit of work. With a little bit of concerted effort on your part, you can pick it up and read it as is. Or you can pick up, they have people that have done translations of it. And you can pick up a translation and you don't lose much. And that might be a good first way of encountering Chaucer, is through the work of a translator. But there is something beautiful about the original that Chaucer wrote that makes it worthwhile. And this is a group of travelers on a pilgrimage to Canterbury. And they've all decided that they're going to each tell two tales on the way there and two tales each on the way back. Unfortunately, Chaucer did not come anywhere close to finishing that. So if you want a lot of tales, one that I can't hold up, but that I'm sure Tom from Tom L.A. Books would recommend, would be the Decameron by Boccaccio, which was an influence for Chaucer. So now we come to one of the other easy, obvious recommendations here, and that is Le Morte d'Arthur. There's no getting around King Arthur, and because it's me that's doing this list, you're going to get a healthy dose of Arthurian recommendations in here. I'm sorry. If you're going to read one of them, this is probably not the one to read, but this is the definitive one to read. So if you want one that is, it's going to give you the most comprehensive background on the Arthurian lore from back then, this is the one to pick up. It's wonderful. Malory's prose is delightful. His storytelling is excellent. It gives you a good taste for the style and flair that they had in the medieval times. And it's going to include a lot of the stories that you have some recognition of. Not all of them are going to go the way you think, because not all of them have been taken the more modern slants on some of the characters and their arcs. But definitely a very, very good one to pick up and read. Next is the one that, if you read only one King Arthur thing from medieval period, it would be the one that's included in here, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. There's no getting around it. I no longer have a copy that's just the Gawain poet and his complete works. I didn't even have the complete works before, but the translation I read last year was missing one of the works, and it wasn't my favorite translation of it. So I replaced it with this. But reading all 4 of the poems by the Gawain poet, so Sir Gawain, the Green Knight, Pearl, Patience, and Cleanness, absolutely delightful experience. And Tolkien's translation here happens to also include Sir Orfeo, which is a delightful medieval romance. So even if you just pick up this volume instead of getting all of the works, this will get you the 2 big ones from the Gawain poet, plus a bonus of Sir Orfeo, and Tolkien at arguably his best as a translator. He does a fantastic job with these. Last summer, I did a couple of videos on Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. So if you want, I'll have those linked down below if you want to watch them. The next recommendation. So if you want more than just Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, but you are daunted by the size of Malory and Le Morte d'Arthur, this is a good alternative. It is. I might like it even more than Le Morte d'Arthur. These are the Arthurian romances by Chretien de Troyes, French writer back in the 12th or 13th century, I think. So predates Malory by just a little bit. And this has got 4 different tales in here. And they're all excellent, but the one that you'll probably be most interested in is the one that's Lancelot, which also goes under an alternative name sometimes of The Knight in the Cart. And it is a really, really interesting story and has a lot of what you'd be familiar with Lancelot. And it's believed that this could have possibly been the origin of some of those things that we typically associate with Lancelot. So this one, highly, highly recommended. And so this is, the next 2 are Arthurian adjacent. They have Arthurian in there, but more than just Arthurian. Kind of like the Gawain poet, but even more so, spreading out. And both of these are fantastic. I read this next one last year, and the one that follows earlier this year, and both of them are phenomenal. So these are the Lais by Marie de France. Lais being different stories, tales that she's telling. And so a lot of times they're taking something that's a kind of a common tale and subverting some of them, retelling them in an interesting way. And so you'll have some Arthurian tales in here, but you'll have some phenomenal non-Arthurian tales in here. I can't recommend this highly enough. I read this for Ancient Thon last year and just loved it to pieces. For this year's Ancient Thon, I read the title that I can't pronounce, the Mabinogion. Anonymous source. This is the edition I have. I don't know enough to know what translator to be looking for or anything like that. It's got a heavy dose of Arthurian tales in here, but not exclusively Arthurian tales. Lots and lots of delightful tales. It is one of my favorite reads so far this year, if that tells you anything. So it has 11 medieval Welsh tales. So you can't go wrong with this one. This is a great, great volume of tales. And so now we're coming to the very last of what I would consider to be the fiction spectrum here of medieval writings. And that is, of course, the Inferno by Dante. I mean, I could hold up all three of them. This is, at the very least, you want to read the Inferno. And Tom, bless him, has an entire series going canto by canto through all three of the books from the Divine Comedy. And they're excellent resources. And when I reread this and the other two in this trilogy, so to speak, I'm going to be leaning heavily on those because he's just so insightful and enlightening. And the John Ciardi translation is pretty good. I've read bits of this and can confirm that this is a very enjoyable translation. I've read the Longfellow translation, which I was not as keen on, but that's been many, many years, so I'm in a different place now to where I might enjoy it more. But Dante's Inferno, absolutely worth your time reading. So next we have kind of a comprehensive overview of alternative medieval texts, because there's more than just this. And to really understand a lot of the medieval culture, you need something that gives you a smattering of a lot of things. Some poetry, some riddles, some of the land deeds and different laws and things of that nature. And so the Anglo-Saxon World, an anthology by Kevin Crossley-Holland as the translator, is a fantastic anthology. It's not that thick of an anthology. 308 pages, so you aren't going into a big investment. It includes the entire text of Beowulf in here, so that bloats it by an extra, couple dozen pages. Yeah, about 80 pages of this is Beowulf, which if you've already read the Seamus Heaney translation, encountering it again here would be good to give you an alternative experience, another translator. Or if you're reading Beowulf for the first time, reading Seamus Heaney and then skipping it in here for now would be also good. But I mean, it's got things broken down to where you've got heroic poems, you've got laws, Anglo-Saxon chronicles, so some excerpts from that, some elegies, some exploration, some epics, some Christian poems, some Christian texts, charters, tracts, wills, charms, remedies, allegory, sermons, destinies. So you just get a very, very brief and broad overview of the spectrum of texts that are available. And some of them are going to be more interesting than others, but they all give you a bit of a hint into the life of the people that lived during that time and what was important to them. All right, so next we come to one that I read earlier this year as well for Ancient Thon and continue to rave about. That is Deeds of the Saxons by Widukind of Corvey. So Roger must have caught my video where I was going on about this one. This is fantastic. If you've read Herodotus and enjoyed his style of narrating historical events, then Widukind of Corvey is going to be right up your alley because he does a great job of making it really, really exciting and engaging, well written, in a fraction of the space that it would take to read Herodotus. This is 150-ish pages. So it flies by. It flew by for me. I think I finished it in 2 days because it was just hard to put it down. It was written so well, so engagingly, and gives you a good just idea of the Saxon people, who they are, and their history coming into the point in time when they encountered the medieval world. So I can't recommend that highly enough. If you watch Jordan Parsons' channel, which if you don't, you should, go subscribe to him. I'll have him linked down below as well. He just got done reading and talking about this fantastic text, Bede, the ecclesiastical history of the English people, which sounds like a real snooze fest, but it's not. Jordan will attest to that. This is absolutely engaging in a way that it shouldn't be based on that title. It is easily one of the most readable nonfiction pieces of medieval text that I've encountered so far. There are other great ones. History of the Kings of Britain by Geoffrey of Monmouth, which I don't see pulled out. Maybe Roger swiped it to take over to Michael's collection. Who knows? Or maybe he just forgot to pull it. Maybe I don't have a copy anymore on my shelf. Who knows? That's probably the case because I'm sure Roger would have pulled it if I actually had it on my shelf. But that one's a very interesting text, but it's not nearly as readable as Bede. Bede is just, he grapples with some fascinating ideas and does it in a way that's really, really entertaining and engaging. So that is a great nonfiction recommendation from the medieval period. And last of this, we got to go into philosophical texts. And so we have the Consolation of Philosophy by Boethius, which is short, but like Bede, like Wonderkind of Corvey, is written in a way that's just absolutely entertaining, engaging. And this is integral to a lot of, at least a couple of stories that are written by Chaucer. Boethius was an influence, a very influential mind back in the medieval period. And this was his magnum opus. And it is absolutely fantastic. And so I think you would enjoy this. It's not a very long read. Even if philosophy is not your thing, which is not my thing, this is just enjoyable. And so it looks like Roger also pulled 3 non-historical texts for me to talk about here to wrap things up. So giving some fiction, modern fiction, so historical fiction recommendations to you. And I think these are fantastic, excellent choices. So we start with one that I read last year and loved. And this is Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. Ken does a fantastic job of building the world in a very realistic way of what it would have been like in the medieval world. You follow Tom the Builder, his family, struggles as he's trying to fulfill his dream of building a cathedral. There's lots and lots of political and religious manipulating and dynamics going on. You see a lot of interesting characters. Things are dark and grim at times. The time they were living in was dark and grim. The church was very much involved in everything. And you'll see that, the constant meddling, the manipulation, the overbearing presence that it has on everything that happens. And it's very much shown in Pillars of the Earth. Next, we have, this is going to stand for the entire series. This is the only book I have of that series so far. But I've read the first 2/3 of the series so far. I need to eventually circle back around to finishing it. And so this stands in for The Last Kingdom series by Bernard Cornwell, which is, again, a very, very, very good series. Dark at times. It takes place in England around the reign of King Alfred. So this is a time when England is not England yet. 4 nations that are independent, and Vikings come a-raiding. You know, the very first books start off with the Vikings have taken out 3 of the 4 kingdoms. There's one left, the Last Kingdom. And that happens to be where our hero, Uhtred, son of Uhtred, as well as King Alfred and many, many other very memorable characters take place and live. Can't recommend it highly enough. It's an enjoyable series. Even just doing the first 2 books would give you a very good overview of those big sweeping events that are taking place. And then last but not least, we have a graphic novel recommendation. Again, Roger must have watched my videos. Thank you, Roger, for keeping up on all my stuff. But this is a thick graphic novel. And I read it in a single day. I could not put this thing down. And this is volume 1. There's still volumes 2 and 3 that I need to pick up eventually. There's always more that you need to pick up, right? But I really, really need to pick volumes 2 and 3 up because I just devoured this, and it is exactly what I enjoy. And so that's Northlanders by Brian Wood. This is I almost said fantastic again. I mean, you could probably go back and watch my video and take a shot every time I say that. You wouldn't make it this far. But this is outstanding. Engaging storytelling. It's told in almost a saga-like fashion because it's got a couple of independent tales. So a couple of really short ones, one really long one being told, each of them following different characters. So there's not overlap. It's more of slices of life from this era being told in a graphic representation. And it's exactly what I didn't know I needed in a graphic novel. And it's thick. It's 400 and some pages. But the artwork is great. The storytelling is great. And I can't recommend this highly enough. So, Roger, thank you so much for calling and interrupting my video and stopping me from talking about the books that I had pulled that were just, I don't want to say boring old classics, but the kinds of classics that you would expect everyone to be talking about. And at that point in time, we all become just repetitive. But I could really lean into, and you were right about this, Roger, I could lean into my own experience with medieval texts. I have a lot of them on my shelf. I have a lot of them I still haven't read. There are books that I'm like, oh, that, but I haven't read that. I just know that it's one of those highly regarded texts. So, I won't go as far as to say this is a starter kit. I think that's trademarked by Steve Donahue. And I'm by no means anywhere near being the authority on the subject matter. But if you were ever interested in medieval texts, hopefully this half hour has given you a good idea of some places to start. Because all of these come with my own seal of approval. Roger did a great job of pulling books that I definitely can support and get behind as ones that I can't guarantee that you'll enjoy them because we're all different and there's no universally enjoyed book out there. But I can say with pretty good confidence that if you wanted to try this period of literature, picking up these would give you a good sampling of some of the best that this era has to offer. And we'll let you decide if it's something that you're interested in, you want to go further, or if it's just not your thing and you want to move on back into the comforts of the modern day. So hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you, BookTube. Have a great day.